We are here with a very special guest, Adam Nasir.
I would say I'm one of the most free people you'll ever meet in terms of mindset, lifestyle, freedom of expression, freedom of energy. Built a company that's worth somewhere around $100 million. Multiple passports, climbed with some of the tallest mountains in the world, been to many countries, speak 5 languages.
You said they don't hire the most talented people. I actually got rejected from McDonald's.
Thought about committing suicide, kind of.
Do you believe in fate, or do you believe that you are the architect of your own destiny?
It's a good question.
It's great to have you here, Adam. Believe it or not, on the last podcast, it's not actually out yet, so Adam actually hasn't had the chance to listen to it. I name dropped Adam, and you could call it manifestation. You could call it just pure effort of me going out and reaching out to him after. We'll call it manifestation for you girls at home. But here he is today, the next podcast, and I'm very much looking forward to this podcast, Adam. It's been a long time coming. We've had a bit of like a I'd say like a what would you call it? Like a little volley of DMs back and forth over the last year. And you're a mysterious man online. Nobody knows who you are, what you do, where you come from. So today I really want to break that down and figure out who you are.
And expose me for the scammer that I am, because I'm probably a shady course seller or scammer.
Yeah, we're going to expose exactly what you sell and how you make your money. And for you people at home, Adam has a very interesting journey, okay? He's not just somebody who's come and found success very quickly. He's been through the trials and tribulations. So we're really going to break that down today. Adam, thank you.
Looking forward to it.
And thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, should we talk about how we first met?
Sure, we can talk about anything we want. Absolutely. We can talk about the Basel story in Romania. We can talk about, sure. So we can start off with it.
I'll intro it and then I'll let you kind of take the reins. So at the last Fight Gecko event, the first Fight Gecko event, the previous guest as well, I met Adam. He was looking dapper. He had a red velvet suit on, cane. And I saw it
with a knife inside.
With a knife inside. Is that legal in Dubai?
It was a $10,000 cane I bought from Russia with a $10,000 with a Damascus steel sword inside of it with your name engraved in it.
Is that legal in Dubai?
No, but it's only illegal if they know about it.
Okay.
So like you can't know that the knife is inside of the cane. So
it's got like a little pop on it, so you can't like just pull it out.
Yeah, no, it's got a little button and a knife comes out.
So yeah, I saw Adam across the other side of the room looking dapper. I went over and shook his hand and introduced myself, because truly he looked the best there. And I thought, who is this guy? This guy's somebody special, right? He's doing something. And then fast forward 3 days later, it was a very brief introduction. 3 days later, I was in Romania and I got in an Uber. And funny enough, we're driving down the road and I'm having a great conversation with the driver. Yeah. And he says to me, I can't remember what the subject was exactly, but he goes, "I'm famous." I said, "You're famous?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "There's this guy, he came to Bucharest, he took videos of me, I'm online, I'm famous." I said, "Well, let me see." And he pulls up your video. And he pulls up a video of him with you. And I said, "Is that Adam?" And he goes, "You know Adam?" I said, "Kind of."
Small world.
I shook his hand like 3 days ago. And tell me this story, man.
Crazy.
How did you meet
crazy.
Adam?
So I was in Bucharest over a year ago, and I was renouncing my U.S. citizenship. So I was going to renounce my U.S. citizenship. I'm a U.S. citizen at the time. And I was there going to the embassy to, finish out the process. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I call an Uber just randomly. I'm staying at the Marmarosh Hotel. Uber Black shows up, and this black Mercedes shows up with a guy named Basil. Really, really just sweet, good guy. He's from Palestine, lived in Romania, and he spoke like perfect English, and just gives you that fatherly figure vibe. When he was talking, I was like, "Oh, this guy, you can listen to him."
It's very wise.
Very wise.
Yeah.
So the first ride was really amazing. He dropped me off somewhere in Herstro Park in Bucharest. And I was like, this guy's pretty cool. Let me just take his WhatsApp, and if I need a ride again in the future. So I called him again, and he was just, very pleasant. We built a good friendship. And for when I, needed it for the renunciation, I called the local driver. And we became really good friends. And so much so that, renouncing your citizenship is such a huge process, but it's also an important step of your life, right?
Yeah,
Think about all the important steps. I was like, you know what? Let me include him in the video and the YouTube video and all this kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun. We became really good friends. And then coincidentally, you guys met. And, just connected us that way as well.
Yeah, funnily enough, I mean, shout out to Basil. If anybody watching is going to Romania, DM me or Adam, and we'll send you his number.
You won't regret it.
You won't regret it. He became a bit of like a father figure in my life as well. I spent a good 3 months in Bucharest, and he would take me everywhere. But for me, it was like the advice he would give me. He's that guy who's not afraid to give his 2 cents. He'd always ask. He'd be like, can I give you my 2 cents? I'd be like, oh no, what's coming?
Yeah.
I remember once he told me to relax. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, you're sat there like all rigid. He was like, relax. And I was like, okay, cool. And I hear it sometimes in my head.
It's wise words. Very one of those rare humans that I ought to come to Bucharest with you, brother. Honestly, because
you want to come?
I probably should.
You would love it. I saw you guys in the newspaper together. Obviously, I don't speak Romanian, so I don't know what it said.
No, that's bullshit. That's basically we're just in the street, and then there's always these like pop-up photographers that will just take a photo of you on the street, and then like they have a printed newspaper. It's all over Europe. They do that.
Okay.
So we're not that famous.
I thought you actually hit the news in
Bucharest.
That was very cool. Well, look, Adam, you touched a bit upon your US citizenship that you've now revoked. Where are you now a citizen of?
I'd like to actually quickly introduce myself. That's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
I'd like to quickly introduce myself. So my name is Adam. For the people that probably don't know me, my name is Adam. I'm a Moroccan-born U.S. citizen. Moved to the U.S. when I was young. Was very fortunate enough to have one of the most incredible and difficult childhoods. At the time I didn't know it. It was 10 years of basically living in prison for 10 years, and grew on to living a life extremely on my terms. And it's rare in today's world that you find somebody that truly exemplifies it. It's very rare, even in my world living in Dubai. I meet a lot of well-off people, but they're not free. So I would say I'm one of the most free people you'll ever meet in terms of mindset, lifestyle, freedom of expression, freedom of energy, everything, which I'll get into. Multiple passports, built I would say, I try not to talk about it too much, but I kind of have to because it's already out there. But built a company that's worth somewhere around the 9 figures now, somewhere around the $100 million plus mark. Bootstrapped it with zero experience, so no tech background, no experience, and no investors. Great, which was also great. I can get into that as well if you'd like. And did that really through grit and perseverance and awareness and just taking action on things. Climbed some of the tallest mountains in the world. Been to many countries, speak 5 languages. Did a lot of different development, but really came from somebody that really came from one end of the spectrum, from very little to creating the person that is here today. And hopefully providing some value, because there's a lot of people that do these podcasts, I'm sure with you, that aren't who they say they are, or they're just doing it for their own attention or spotlight. I don't really give a shit, to be honest. My genuine goal is I've actually done everything, and it's very rare to find people in this kind of position. And my goal is to find, or to just impact really the people who need to hear it from a very credible source, not one of these, thousands of fake influencers or fakers online who are, not living the actual life that they portray.
It was an amazing intro. I'll touch upon it quickly because I've never actually said it on the podcast, but the reason I do this podcast is exactly what you said there. It's so that, if one person or 2 people get to listen to a couple of these podcasts and it changes their mindset and their lives, I feel fulfilled. That's my mission. So if anybody listening at home, if you've ever gained any value, please drop me a message. It would mean the world to me to know that I'm doing this for a good reason. So Adam, I think we can really make a difference today together. And before we get into like all the cool things, the mindset, the passports, the money and the business, I want to start with you as a child. You said you had a really rough childhood. Yeah. You're a Moroccan born, but you were raised in the US. Tell me about this childhood of yours.
Yeah. Happy to get into it. So I was, again, very fortunate to have a difficult past that once you overcome, you really become the person you want to be. So I was born in Morocco, 1988. I gave myself 10 years there.
Getting close.
1988. Parents moved to the U.S. When I was 8 years old for just seeking a better life, a better opportunity. And I'm very grateful for the U.S. for providing that. Things didn't work out between my mom and dad. Mom got remarried into with a stepfather that abused both of us for a very long time. You know, he was just like a power hungry kind of guy, didn't get it much, and he, you know, abused both of us when I was young, and her poor thing, and yeah, it was tough, man. And those formative years when you're 8, 9, like 10 years old, you don't have anyone to look up to. But then I'd come home and I'd hear like, turn on the fucking lights, turn off the lights, like clean the kitchen, clean your room. Like, geez, like I don't feel at home, you know? So I lived scared. And then in school I was tiny and I was like not tiny, but scrawny, but I didn't know how to defend myself and I was afraid. So as you'd imagine, I got bullied a lot. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I was really just, I wasn't instilled with the right mindset. And a lot of young people, they don't have it. And they also don't have it from their parents. Like their parents themselves don't have that mindset to give to their children. And you notice they grow up fractured, right? So, you know, it was a very difficult time for 10 years. And at some point, you know, I decided, okay, let me at least get some work. When I was 15, I got a job at McDonald's, you know, making $6 an hour. If they would have paid me less, it would have been illegal, but
you would have done it anyway.
I would have still done it.
Just to rewind a little bit, obviously, that it's I'm very sorry to hear. You know, it sounds like not a nice childhood, but if you could go back and change it, would you?
No. In hindsight, having achieved what I've achieved, it was the greatest gift that could have ever happened. Honestly, it's cliche to say, oh, like be appreciative of your past, but most people are bullshitting with themselves. They're trying to like fake it till they make it. Genuinely, I adore myself so much in a healthy way, not in a like narcissistic way, in a very healthy way. I'm genuinely love and adore myself so much. And I know that that project of me would not have happened if it wasn't for that past. And people often say, what's your greatest accomplishment? They'll talk about a business deal. They'll talk about the love of their life or their, you know, some great feat, maybe some mountain they climbed or some title that they won when they were in high school, but they never talk about themselves. They rarely talk about themselves, which is the person that you've created. That is the greatest achievement you'll ever make in your life.
Tell me, when you were in school, you know, like 13, 14, what were your like hobbies, your pastimes? Because obviously someone with, you know, not such a great home life and not such a great school life, you tend to, I guess, distract yourself, right? Or try and find things that you like. So what did that look like for you? What was like a day in the life? Yeah,
good question. I was just video games. I played, you know, console games online, you know, PlayStation.
Which games?
SOCOM, U.S. Navy SEALs.
Okay.
And Final Fantasy VII were my games back in the day.
Nice. Yeah. So you used to just game, stuff like that. What would you do though? Would you like go
game
to school?
and hustle? I would also like knock on doors and, you know, see if anybody needed their lawn mowed or snow, like their driveway shoveled for snow.
Yeah.
So I was still hustling as a kid.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then obviously 15, you got your first job.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Oh, it was awesome. I just went to McDonald's one day and I saw a now hiring thing. I was like, would you guys hire me? Like, what's the minimum age? He said 16, 15. You know, I interviewed the manager. Boom. I got a shirt the same day.
You interviewed the manager.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
So how long did you work there for?
So a year and a half. And then, you know, with the trend in my life was always continuously leveling up. Mm-hmm. So worked at McDonald's for a year and a half, and then I found an electronic shop called Circuit City back in the US. I went in there to buy a video game one day, and I was like, you know what? Let me just talk to the manager and see if they can hire me. Sold myself on the spot, and then I upgraded from McDonald's to
Circuit City.
Selling electronics, DVDs, computers, like stuff that I liked, and 30% more pay. I was like, all right, it's a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. I don't have to, you know, put fries in the bag anymore. You know, it's great.
Literally. Well, what would you say the biggest lesson you learn at McDonald's is? Because I always see people working at McDonald's, and a lot of them, you know, they all bring different like lessons out of it. I'd really be interested to hear yours.
Yeah. I mean, having built a company now, our company is more than 70 plus full-time employees, and you know, it's a decent sized company. But you know, you learn a lot of principles from very simple businesses. So McDonald's doesn't hire the highest quality, most talented people. So McDonald's doesn't hire the most talented people. McDonald's has the most efficient processes for simplicity and efficiency. So you come in, you put the fries in the you put the fries in the fryer.
Yeah.
You press a button, you hear a beep, you put them in the box, you salt them, and you put the fries in the bag. Once, twice, 3 times, to the point you're a master at it. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4 done. 1, 2, 3, 4 done. And that's what I learned from McDonald's, is kind of creating this assembly machine of building out the processes and having people repeat the processes. This is very efficient in business.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said they don't hire the most talented people. I actually got rejected from McDonald's.
Wow.
I remember when I was...
Have you thought about committing suicide?
I thought about it at the time. I remember my grandparents were really pushing me to get a job.
That's low.
And I
even
tried,
McDonald's didn't want you. That's pretty bad.
I tried and tried and tried.
Wow.
And I applied for McDonald's and I got an email back about 3 weeks later.
Sorry, you're not qualified enough to work.
Yeah. Well, you just said that they don't hire talented people.
Wow.
Why is that?
Can I say something funny? I was actually thinking about, going to McDonald's here in Dubai.
Yeah.
And like handing in my CV, just pretending and like actually get a job there.
Just to see.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Would they hire you though?
I would have to like drop my IQ by 50%, and just make some fake resume.
Why is that they don't hire the most talented people, the smartest people?
Oh, tenure. It's yeah. So jokes aside about that, it's a retention thing. They feel like you're not going to follow the rules. The most intelligent people don't follow the rules. They make the worst students.
So they want you to stay as long as possible, right?
Yeah.
So in your line of business, obviously you've studied that kind of McDonald's streamline. Would you apply the same rule?
Yeah. There's definitely for certain level employees and positions, there's definitely some repetitive patterns you have to create for some levels of the business. So if it's a director level position, not really as much. But for junior level positions in your company, you definitely want to create some repeatable processes.
Very nice. So tell me, Circuit City, what next? What was your next big thing? How long were you there for?
Yeah, I was in Circuit City for 1.5 years, salesman of the month consistently. But then moved on from selling electronics to selling cable door to door. First I was in the mall and I was selling cell phones, and then selling cable door to door. Made $1,000 a week.
Nice.
Good money.
Yeah.
Really good money. But going to the hood, I have like Tyrone and freaking Abdul. I was like maybe Tyrone and Jamal like knocking on their door like, hey, do you want to sell by internet? I get rejected left and right, but it taught me rejection. It taught me how to deal with different personalities and how to run from Rottweilers.
Okay. And how long did you sell cable for?
About a year. Yeah, about a year. And then I moved to Florida when I was going to school for university. So I did that for about a year, moved to Florida, and then I started getting into cars, flipping cars, and flipping real estate, and then progressively up and up and up. And I got into the software business later on.
Did you finish college or university?
Unfortunately, yes.
You did? What did you major in?
International business management.
Okay. Did you learn anything there that you've applied today, would you say?
How to network with people, I guess.
Is that it?
Yeah, like nothing within the classroom now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 1 or 2 classes that I thought were good, but...
Yeah, it's very interesting. I have a lot of friends back home who studied business. I studied music.
Yeah.
No idea why. I just thought that was the thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I had loads of friends that studied business, and they were like, you should study business as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have no interest in business.
Yeah. It teaches you corporate business. I had a great teacher in University of Tampa, Dr. K. He was excellent. And it taught the principles of business, like the actual principles of business, the definitions of things. It was really interesting. This is the one class I really loved and the professor I really absolutely cared about. But outside of that, everything else was just like information just to to memorize. It wasn't actually useful.
Could you share the top 3 principles of business with me?
Top 3, interesting. It's a very broad question. Top 3 principles of business.
Or the ones that apply to you the most?
Yeah, I would say understanding exactly what like the problem is you're trying to solve. Because most people don't, they sell something before they understand the problem. So understand the problem intricately, solve that problem to the highest level. And third, I'd say probably has to do with marketing, is just really be different when it comes to marketing, not like everybody else. So those would be the 3, is really understanding the core of your problem extremely well, solving it to the highest level possible, and 3, being different and unique in the way you approach your marketing to the problem.
Very nice. Now, you've obviously done this, right, with your software company. So run me through a little bit about how this happened, how this came around. Where were you when you came up with the idea originally, and why did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, so I was living in the US in 2019, 2018, 19. I was doing real estate wholesaling, which was buying and flipping properties, and always trying to find a new way to get an advantage up on my competitors, right? Just like anybody in your business, you want to try to find that extra leg up, that extra advantage. And I thought, how cool would it be if I could send text messages and start doing deals this way? That was always my approach. And I Googled it.
Why is that? Sorry, is that because everybody at the time was doing it like via email?
Yeah, direct mail. They were doing a lot of direct mail.
Just post.
A lot of direct mail, or Google Ads, PPC, this kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so more traditional. And text didn't really exist back then. So I Googled it, nothing existed. So I went on a website called Upwork, and I found, I posted a job, and I found a developer that built me the app for $300 initially.
Good deal.
Pretty damn good deal. And I used it in my business. The first month, I made a $15,000 deal. The next month, I had a $14,000 or $12,000 deal. And I said, you know what? I built this little secret tool that can dig me gold, like faster. I can find gold faster. And I sat on it for like a year, and then eventually I had the idea of, instead of me digging for the gold, why don't I sell the shovel? And that's when everything changed. So everything changed when I decided to not only do the digging myself, for hunting for good deals, but actually selling that tool to the other people who are doing the same thing. And that changed the entire dynamics.
Interesting. So you paid $300 to get obviously like the first version of it working. How much would you say in that year that you made on the back of your own tool?
Well, the first version was $300. I had to build it. I've since spent millions and millions on it. But yeah, the first year, I could show you our Stripe if you want, but first year I probably made like $100K or something the first year.
Nice. Sorry, I meant before that, like when you were just using it privately yourself, selling real estate. How much would you say that tool itself brought you in terms of like revenue?
Yeah, like 40, 50K.
Nice.
Revenue, yeah.
Nice. And then you obviously launched it. When you launched it, to the public, how did you go about it? Obviously, you came to the realization that, you want to sell the shovel.
Yeah.
But how did you actually build the shovels and then make people want the shovels in the first place?
Yeah. So when I decided that I wanted to shift it from just a tool that I was using to a tool that other people are going to use, you have to think about, okay, I don't know software. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I have to make it user-friendly. I have to make it look nice. When I used it, it was just like a dingy website, and it looked terrible, right?
Yeah.
I have to make it a good user experience, make some design, reporting pages, and actually make it like look clean. So I remember I sketched out the whole thing myself. So instead of hiring some designer, what I did is I went on a piece of paper and I just drew out like what the software would look like, all the flows, with a pencil.
Yeah.
And whenever I got stuck, I would steal and I would copy from the biggest companies in the world. So if you look at our Messenger, it looks exactly like your iPhone. Mm-hmm. So my Messenger, people love it because they're like, wow, this looks amazing. I'm like, yeah, it's a copy of iMessage. Our calendar Guess who he stole from? Google Calendar.
Nice.
So we have like, wow, the calendar's neat. The inbox, we have like an inbox section of the CRM. It looks exactly like Gmail. So I took like the best of Gmail, the best of Facebook, with the notification systems from Facebook, the best of Facebook, the best of iMessage, and put it all together. And I get labeled the genius for building the most efficient and user-friendly application possible. I stole from the best of what people use. All my customers use it. I'll use these tools and put it together in one product. And that's how I built the design.
Why overcomplicate it, right?
Yes.
So obviously this process must have taken a while. In that first year, you said you made like 100K. I'm guessing that's revenue, right? How did you actually deploy it to people?
Yeah, so this goes into being unconventional with your marketing approaches. If you market the same way as everybody else, you're probably going to fail, right? But in this case, it helps to be early in the market. So if you have an idea, not playing in a space where you have a bunch of competitors, you want to have little competition if you're entering a new market, like a business, right? But what I did is I partnered up with real estate investors who had a huge audience. And I'd say, hey, I got this killer new product, and I know you have a huge audience. Let's jump on a webinar, educate people. They can grow their business. You can get a percentage as an affiliate, of the sales, and I can sell my software and get the word out. So it's a win-win. And then once you create that initial like snowball effect, people know about it, then you get a lot of word of mouth. All the real estate investors would start talking about the software, and it grew organically.
Okay, so you didn't pay for like no Facebook ads, no Instagram ads, none of that. It was just pure word of mouth that grew you.
Yeah.
Amazing. And tell me, how did that progress over the next few years?
Yeah, I had a few choices as a founder. It's like, once you start to make money, do you take profit, or do you roll that back into the company and into the future, right? And that's a question you have to ask based on a lot of factors. What's the shelf life of what I'm doing? How long will it work? How much do you believe in it, right? Those are questions every business owner is going to have to make. How much am I going to have to put back into my business, or how aggressively will I reinvest? I invested super heavily because I really believed in the software long term and the adaptability of it. So every dollar we made, we would just put it back into R&D, more developers, and I took very minimal profit. So I was living, a good life, but not balling out. I wasn't balling.
But at what point did you quit like real estate yourself and go kind of all in?
Yeah, once we crossed about 30K a month, I went all in on.
So in your first year?
Yeah, in the first year. Yeah.
Nice. And then when did you take your first big profit?
Couple years in, I mean, define big. I don't know. I'm buying a house for my mom tomorrow, actually, an apartment for my mom tomorrow, actually. So like, those are cool things. I'm noticing this year. I'm really, this last 12 to 24 months, I've really gone crazy. Let's say gone crazy, but I've been experienced reaping the rewards. It's probably the better way to say it. But yeah, I was always pretty grounded about it. I wasn't taking huge profits at a time. I'd still have the odd trip out to Europe or have fun, but just in the last year or two, I'd really enjoy more.
So you've been locked in, right? How many years since you started the company?
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Seven years.
Yeah.
So you've been locked in for the last like first 5 of those years, solid, locked in, like barely any profits. What does it take in your mind to be able to do this? Because I know a lot of people, and myself, you make a bit of money in business, and the first thing you want to do is go and spend it.
Yeah.
So what's your mindset on that? How do you stop yourself and really focus on that bigger picture?
Yeah. No, good question. I guess ask yourself the question, are you playing the long game or the short game? Because going out to the club and having a bunch of girls around you and partying is super fun. It can be super fun if you're a young guy for a couple hours, and then it's gone. And it's gone.
And the money's gone. Yeah.
So it's like super short term, but seeing your mom smile from when you buy her an apartment, seeing your family succeed and having the safety that your family will thrive on is for life. Like it's a for life thing. So I would rather have the joy of seeing my family thrive long term and for generations to come versus a 3-hour moment at a bar with my boys or some fancy restaurant.
Is this the mindset you had when you started the software company in like your first year? Were you really in it for that long game?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was still fucking around. I was living in Eastern Europe. I was still going out having fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was definitely no saint. I was still going out. But in the back of my mind, I still felt like, I hope one day I'm an immigrant. I came here from nothing. And I hope to become financially free.
Yeah. So you touched upon there, you were living in Eastern Europe. When did you move from the US to Europe?
Oh, yeah. It's
and
a big
why?
part of the story.
And
so,
why?
So, yeah, 2020, when I realized COVID was bullshit, I was traveling. I mean, COVID obviously is a complete scam. Anybody who believes it's, still wearing a mask, more power to you. But, I realized COVID was a scam, and I moved to Eastern Europe, Serbia first. I had a team in Eastern Europe that they were in Ukraine at the time, just by chance. No political affiliations or anything like that. But I went to visit them. I went to visit my team in Kiev in 2020. 2020, yeah.
This is before the war was even...
Yeah. Before the war and everything. And I was like, man, there's good talent. There's good engineers here. Let me build up more employees, bigger office. And that helped us a lot. That was a huge part of our journey. But I was so obsessed with my company, so obsessed with growth, that I moved to fucking Eastern Europe to maximize the chances of success. And this is what most people don't do. They're not obsessive about it. I was obsessive about the software company and its future. I was like, all in, move to Europe, do whatever we have, sleep on the fucking floor if we have to. I'm going to succeed. And that's what people don't realize. People now see the nice jacket and the Ferrari and all that. They have no idea the level of obsession it takes to achieve something of an extravagant result. So I moved to Eastern Europe, built a huge office, and hired dozens and dozens of people at the time in Eastern Europe. And that was a huge part of our success.
I'm going to ask you a question that you might not have the answer to.
Yeah,
and that's okay. So obviously you've had a bit of what I'd say is a kickstart to life with your childhood, etc. And like you said, you'd be willing to do anything for the company. You'd go sleep on a floor, you'd go homeless, you'd do anything, right? Now, do you have any advice for those people that have comfort? Maybe they've had a normal childhood, and they've got a rented apartment with their girlfriend and they got a dog, and they want to pursue, a company. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say with this situation, I would say it's all about creativity and choosing the right business. So those are massively underrated. I know a lot of guys who are all about the hard work. Hard work alone leads you nowhere. If you just work, like if you're trying to walk to China, but you're heading west, it's like, okay, you could walk as far as you want, but it's going to be very hard, right?
Yeah.
So that's the idea. I was just super creativity. I'd say creativity and choosing the right thing, and like being very specific on the actions you take, trump action.
Yeah.
So I'm more like about being very unique and creative.
So work smarter.
Work smart.
Not necessarily harder.
Yes.
This is something I've been struggling with. Maybe you can help me with this. When do you know to, take a break or recover? Because, there's kind of two things at the moment online. There's the hustle mindset of never take a day off, don't sleep, just work. And then there's now this like anti-hustle movement of, balance and take breaks, etc. And I'd say I'm quite on the fence. How did you deal with this and burnout and things like that?
No, good one. I would say if you have a huge goal, it's perfectly fine to go in sprints for full speed. Because when you're obsessing about something, all the information, you have all of the information at your disposal, and your brain kind of works around solving that problem. So yeah, when you have a large goal, I would say obsession for some small period of time is perfectly healthy.
Small period of time.
Yeah.
Define that.
Yeah, a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple months of just like 6 days a week, just all in, wake up to sleep. That's your entire goal. You have to. I mean, you think any athlete, professional athlete before the Olympics was just like balanced life? No. Like before a major goal, you have to be obsessive for a period of time.
What do you do at that 3-month mark when you haven't hit the goal though?
Okay, well, you could take a week off.
Yeah.
Reset yourself.
And then go back in.
Yeah.
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 Nice. I like that. Nobody's ever given that advice, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Because once you've burned out, like you actually like more hard work does not produce more results. So if your brain is completely burnt, you're working hard for nothing with no result outside, right? So yeah.
What was life like in Eastern Europe compared to America?
Super fun.
Fun.
Super fun.
Would you say distracting fun?
It was cool to like not speak the language. You know, I was like learning Russian and all this stuff was really interesting. Totally different. You look different. You speak different. But I liked it.
Why did you like it so much? What were the main differences?
You know, I liked being in a place where you're new and unique and different. You know, I really appreciated that part of my life.
Like the recognition.
Yeah, it was just like, I kind of felt like an outsider in a way. And you enjoy it. I mean, you've lived in Bucharest for some time, right? You live in a place where people don't necessarily, you're an outsider.
Yes.
And I like it. It's definitely a good growth journey, to be honest. You know,
I had this, I can kind of relate to you on a little bit from the childhood, maybe not all of it, but I moved to France when I was 5 years old. You know, all the friendships I'd made up until 5 kind of out of the way. And then I moved back to England when I was 16. And I kind of went through that journey of being the outsider, but in a place that doesn't make you different. So you're just an outsider. That's all.
Yeah.
And that was very, very different to the last year when I spent 3 months in Romania. It was very much like people would actually look at you differently. People, when you spoke, people would like, you know, ask you questions about where you're from and why do you speak that way. And it was a very interesting way to live. How long did you live there? In Eastern Europe?
In Eastern Europe, I was there for years. So I was in Ukraine for about a year and a half or so. And then once the war started, I haven't been back. And then I lived in Poland for 6 months, lived in Hungary a couple months, Serbia for several months, Bulgaria, Romania, all over Eastern Europe.
Been to all of them. When did you leave Eastern Europe? And I guess that was when you came to Dubai, right?
Yeah, I came to Dubai in 2023. Because I saw it as the place of, okay, this is more grown up, you know, because Eastern Europe is still a little rough around the edges.
Yep.
You know, so I saw Dubai as this place. It's safe, it's clean, it's more congruent with the man that I am now at this stage of life. And thank God I've been here for 3 years. I love it. As a base, I absolutely love Dubai. It's really incredible.
Is your office based in Dubai now?
I don't have an office.
You don't?
I have the Batmobile.
Wait, I mean, you used to have, you said you set up like an office in Ukraine.
Oh, like my employees? No, it's fully remote. Okay. After the war started, we dismantled the office and we've been remote ever since.
How do you manage people working from home?
Good question. Well, now I'm not involved as the CEO. So I have a CEO who runs my company, and I'm more of a passive owner. But it's a good question. I would say really look at output, not hours. You know, anybody can say, hey, I worked this, I did this, I did this. Well, what are the results of what you did? I don't really care of I finished this, I finished this. What's the outcome generated for the business? And most employees are just looking to cross off a checklist. And you can kind of tell who's just there to collect the check or who's there to actually create a result, who actually cares about the outcome. And you can kind of tell those employees. And the ones you do, you kind of keep them there for, you know, maybe some smaller roles or they don't pan out. And the ones who actually genuinely care about your outcome as a shared outcome for you and them, they get promotion opportunities, they get growth opportunities, and reap the rewards of that mindset.
How do you, obviously, it sounds like a silly question, but how do you track the output that people are doing? Do you have like a specific system you use, or is it just very much like on calls, you know, they're updating you?
Yeah, it's not something you can track with a KPI. You can't track like output. It's impossible to like accurately track it. The correct way to do it is just to really look at the director that manages that person to really see what that person is actually doing. You can see their calendar, you can see what they're doing, what they're achieving on a weekly basis, the questions they're asking, how involved they are. So it's a lot of trying to find the right word,
like a manual kind of task.
Yeah, it's more of like a feeling kind of thing, an assessment
Yes.
versus a raw data kind of thing.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now this is something that I'm always looking at. I heard. I think it was Steve Jobs. He said, "Give me 6 A players, and I'll build any business in the world." Where do you find A players, in your opinion?
A players are working for other companies, but A players aren't on LinkedIn looking for a job. They're already working for another company, and the best A players are already employed. So you've got to source them and give them something more compelling.
How do you deal with giving people different pays, for example, in a company? Let's say you have somebody on that's doing the same job as somebody you're hiring, you're paying them $2,000 a month. And then, like you said, you found this guy, he works at another company, he's making 2.2. How do you justify that? Do you hire them and don't tell them? Like,
how do you like justify giving different pay?
Different pay for like the same position?
Depends. I mean, yeah, like that information is public, but it depends on the jurisdiction. If somebody's in Pakistan versus US, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what's the average salary in that market? What's the output of what we expect? What's their experience level? I factor all that in. What are we currently paying our employees? Like I factor all that in, but there is a degree of no one knows really what other people are getting paid for a good reason. That's information that, it's not like you're hiding in something, but it's better just not shared. It wouldn't really make sense for everyone to know what everyone's getting paid. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, that does make sense. Yeah. Thank you for that. Now, look, you touched upon at the start that you have many passports. I don't think you said how many exactly.
Yeah, a few.
Why is this?
I love freedom. Big fan of freedom. So much so I got a little eagle on my thing here.
Nice.
Life on your terms, man. So yeah, man, I fucking love freedom, man. Like freedom is my blood. Freedom is my oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more than money. People get into the trap of, hey, I want to make more money, but why? Why make more money? I make more money and I did all this to have more freedom. And I see a lot of men and women lose their freedom over time from whether it be business, more money, their spouse, their work, something. And, it's sad because I see them shrink as a human being. So I would say freedom is the ultimate oxygen of life. It's the ultimate asset to have. And very few people actually understand it. They're just chasing more and more money. I would say if you're just doing that and you're already a millionaire, you're just a rich slave, right? So, I just wanted more freedom, brother. That's the ultimate.
So you already had like a US passport, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And you live in Dubai, which people consider like one of the freest places, right? So where do you need more freedom from that?
Well, I had a US passport. I gave it up for a few different reasons. One, I don't support the genocide that's happening around the world. I don't support what's happening in Gaza and all these different places. It's something that it's just kind of unfortunate. Also, I understood the tax system isn't in your favor and in a lot of different places. So it's something that I felt strongly against, but also I understood that I can buy passports, right? So I can buy a passport, get the same access to travel without, being tied into a certain system. So that's what I bought I bought a Caribbean passport. I have a Moroccan passport, and I'm currently getting 1 or 2 others at the moment.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so all that does is basically give you like peace of mind,
Yeah.
right, and freedom to travel.
Yeah.
Now,
I can go to an airport and decide like which passport I want to use that day. That's pretty cool.
okay, and tell me, where does the freedom in your day-to-day life come?
Oh, good one. Freedom in my day-to-day life comes where I just do what the fuck I want when I want. I don't have anyone to tell me what to do. I don't have a boss to tell me something. I don't have a girlfriend to say, be home by 5. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You know, I'm free to say what I want to say. So I have full not only time and location freedom. This is very common. A lot of people want time and location freedom. I've already achieved it. I have energetic freedom. So I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm not tied to the opinions of others. Most people are so glued into what people think of them online. You know, for example, oh, people don't like me, or I'm going to try to come off. I mean, I wore a suit today because, you know, I figured it's a podcast. Let me look professional.
Yeah, I wore some nice shoes.
Nice shoes, you know, just being good. But like, I'm just so free of outside opinions of what other people think. I really don't care. Outside of people I genuinely respect, that, you know, I would say this is one of the ultimate freedoms of life that people don't have, is the freedom of not giving a fuck.
Yeah, I would say it works very well for you because you're quite disciplined, right?
Yeah.
You have your mind in the right place. Like, you know what to do with yourself. You know how to carry yourself.
Yeah,
you know when you wake up in the morning to not lay in bed for 12 hours. But I would say it's probably quite dangerous for a lot of people in the world to have that freedom without the right mindset.
Right.
How did you develop such a mindset? Because this is what I referred to on the last podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you the question before I tell you. So, he's a very, very smart guy. He asked me, he said, name 3 people whose qualities you would like to see in yourself, or whose qualities you admire. Can you name like one person whose qualities that you admire?
One person I know.
Can be someone you know. It can be a famous person, dead or alive.
One person that comes to mind immediately that I admire is a good friend of mine. I mentioned him before, Vic Tipnis, good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm. And what are the qualities that you admire?
Family man, value driven, respectful, and never gives up.
Amazing. And would you say you have those qualities yourself?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So this is exactly what he said to me. He asked me to name qualities in people, you know, and you were actually one of the people that sprung to mind.
I'm genuinely honored by that, honestly.
You're welcome. It's all from you, and it's because obviously I've followed you on Instagram for a while. I've seen kind of what you get up to, but also from Basil himself, he told me a lot about you and your mindset and how straight and focused you are. And to me, that's admirable in a world of freedom and decision and, you know, laziness.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's too much nowadays where people do what they want.
Yeah. Bro, you nailed it, because if you have freedom without earning the stripes, then you're kind of fucked. It's like playing the game and like with all the money and all the resources in the world without having to like level up the character, right? To get to level 99, right? You
can't
put in a
equip the
cheat code.
sword. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, like it's good, but like, you know, it's not for everybody. I mean, really, the journey is leveling up yourself. And it's the most admirable thing to understand and not pretend like you're on level 99. Sometimes you're on level 4. Cool. Except you're on level 4. It's going to suck sometimes. You're going to feel like shit. And when you compare yourself to somebody who's on level 60, you're going to say, oh man, that guy's better than me. You might even feel inferior. You might feel insecure based on he has this, I'm here. That's okay. That's perfectly fucking fine. Honestly, this happens a lot. And if I can also speak on something quickly, I notice a lot of times, even now, I go into some rooms and people feel immediately insecure. I'm just being myself. I'm just smiling, having fun. I'm a little bit more confident than the average person. But then people ask the question, who is this guy? Why is he so confident? They assume that you're just another...
Who does he think he is?
You're another... Yeah, who does he think he is? You're just another like scammer or course seller or another guy faking, because we as a society are so conditioned to see all these fakers online. There's so many of them out there. And that's why I'm doing it. But I understand it's an inferiority thing versus seeing somebody, wow, this guy's amazing. Let me check if they're the real deal versus having doubts. I mean, first, instead of having suspicions, check if they're the real deal and what can I learn from this person versus trying to knock them down. And I see that all too often. Accepting that you're on level 4 is fine, and really just pushing to progress as a human being on all levels, from your health, your fitness, your money, in all areas.
What are the best things that somebody can do to level up?
I would say, first, accept that you're not where you want to be. It's fine. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're inferior in some level. It's just part of the game. And also find 1 or 2 people that you really look up to. Figure out that they're the real deal, and then model any portion of their behavior or whatever you choose to model. It doesn't have to be 100%, but model somebody and figuring out what they do, their patterns, their habits, their beliefs, their routines,
Their qualities.
and their qualities. Yeah. Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Tell me, you touched upon the family man aspect of your friend as well. And, just before that, you mentioned that you don't have a girlfriend, you don't want to, be constricted. Is this something that you look for in life? A partner or somebody to share, the rest of your life with, for example?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm, 37 now, and, I've achieved pretty much everything. For the most part, I've achieved a lot of stuff, but I do look at my friends who have a couple kids, and I'm just like, man, that's awesome. That'd be really awesome to go play with them in the park and teach them and all that. I'm still single by choice. I certainly have a lot of options, but I'm very, very, very selective. I just want a nice, simple, easy girl, not too experienced. So
Yeah.
So I'm patiently waiting for the right girl that I want to invest in.
Would you say you're looking or you're just waiting?
Yeah, I'm looking, but not aggressively. I'm
just taking it easy.
Taking it easy and waiting for it to come to me.
Amazing, because I often think about it as well. It's one of the 3 aspects of life, right? Like you have your fitness, your yourself, and then you have your health, I guess, career and relationship, right? Yeah. And what I typically see is people max out one thing first, and then they focus on a second, and then they focus on a third. Where obviously I guess your first one was career. Was there ever a point in your life where you had to step back and go, okay, I need to focus on my health?
Yeah, a few times. Few times you step on the gas on one, and then the other one suffers, and then you step on the gas and the other 2 suffer. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've had that experience, especially after I retired in 2024. Sorry. My health took a big dip.
How did you manage that? What was the experience like?
Oh, it was tough, man. I felt genuinely unhealthy. I hired one of the best experts that I knew, actually from Romania, a good friend of mine, Marius, and he flew down to Dubai. We worked on protocols and health maximum. So I just put the full lever on the gas,
and it's worked.
For health, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So now you've got your third focus, obviously.
Yeah, now third focus is having as many kids as possible.
I feel like you're just doing side quests at this point in your life. You said you're learning Russian.
Yeah.
Right? What else are you doing in terms of goals and achievements? And how do you find purpose nowadays, now that you have everything that you want?
Yeah. Purpose is continual growth. So always learning, always growing, always progressing. No matter where you got to, there's always more you want to do. So, now learning Russian, now, climbing mountains, going jet skiing next month in South America through glaciers and ice and all this crazy stuff. Learning scuba diving now. There's infinite amount of knowledge that any person in 10 lifetimes couldn't learn, right? Mm-hmm. So just learning, bro. Keeping it simple. I don't do the clubs. I don't do the parties. I don't do the late stuff like I did back in the day. I'm a principled person. I'm honest. I care about my people. I love my people. I have one of the biggest hearts in the world for people who I care for, and Yeah, just simple stuff. Honestly, simple things.
Speaking of, caring for people, and obviously that requires a level of trust, right? How do you navigate, trusting people through, your career? Because obviously at the start it's very different to halfway through, and it's very different to now as well. What are some of the struggles you've had, and in terms of your mind, how do you assess these things?
Yeah. I've had a lot of people betray me over my life. And when you've been betrayed, your mind, your brain subconsciously creates barriers and awareness around that. If you're intelligent, your brain is there to protect you from threats, right? Just like if you walk down the street, it's there to protect you from the car driving to hit you. It also knows when somebody has the wrong intentions. You can read the energy, you can read the subtonality. You can just read when somebody is a little bit off and they're hard to trust.
Yeah.
So your brain really has that intuition. It's something very strong that people can train over time. But I'd say with trust, it takes time. And I also look at the intangibles, right? I can look at, you have a nice jacket or a nice suit jacket or dress well, but I look at things that most people don't look at. So when I meet, for example, a man, the first thing I look at is, if I can, his relationship. How's his relationship with his wife? What's his wife look like? How does his wife respond to him? Right? Is he in control or is she in control? Is she sweet and caring and bubbly, or is she kind of like this feminist, hardcore? I'm like, that's a red flag if I see that. It's rare that I see a man that's dialed in with his woman and his woman is dialed in. It's super rare. His fitness. I look at man's fitness. He doesn't have to be a freaking bodybuilder, but is he fat? If you're fat, you're going to lose a lot of respect out of the people who are switched on. Look at other incongruencies as well. How polite you are to the waiter, to the waitress, to the staff. Your emotional intelligence, to the questions you ask. What questions you ask dictate level of intelligence and social intelligence as well. So, for example, in this podcast, you're asking incredible questions. It tells your social intelligence as well. People don't shut the fuck up as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to touch upon the first thing you mentioned with the women, for example, when you meet a man and he's got that feminist woman who speaks over him, etc.
Yeah.
Do you think that for some people it's acceptable, in a relationship to have that dynamic? Maybe it doesn't work for you, but do you believe that a man can be happy in that sort of environment?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of stuff like red pill stuff in the internet that says a man should be a certain way, and smoke cigars and all. No, there's no one way, right? There's no one way. There's all types. But would I do business with that person? Probably not, because what that will create is long term. It'll create jealousy. They're going to see how I live. Now their wife would probably maybe see my Instagram and have some inner resentment and have some pillow talk against me at night, right? I factor in I'm playing chess and I look at 3 moves ahead. Short term, yeah, maybe. But long term, in a business establishment, long term, no, wouldn't work.
It's going to get through to him. How do you, let's say on a date, assess this in a woman?
Good question. On a date, I want to, your age is obviously important. I don't date a woman over 25. It just doesn't happen. I'm really looking for a girl who's younger than me and takes
the Leonardo.
Yeah, the Leonardo. Yeah, exactly. But I'm not looking for short term. I'm really looking for long term. Relationship with family, relationship with father. Obviously, this is pretty well known, but it's underrated how important that is. So a strong relationship with the father. A little healthy distrust of men is fine. Because most men are shit. Most men and women nowadays, honestly, in any big city. But a healthy distrust of society and people is perfectly fine. But mostly, number one thing I look for any person, man or woman, is a giver. Somebody who wants to give.
A generator.
And generates giving and generates value and loves to give. And when you match that with another giver, it's the biggest. It's such a beautiful relationship, and it creates long-term value.
What are the three like main things that you look for in terms of qualities? My friend Warren, I did a podcast with about this time last year. He touched upon it really nicely. He said there's only like a handful of things that you need to look for in a girl. He said everything else is a stocking filler. You know, if she does this, or maybe she gives you this, and blah blah blah. Those are stocking fillers. But there's 5 main core values. To you, what would you say those are?
Trying to think about it. Yeah, number one, giver. I'd say it's number one is being somebody who just loves to give. Number 2, intelligence, and number 3, courage.
What about 4 and 5?
4 and 5. 4 and 5. Traditional. Let's say traditional values. 5. I don't know, just someone who's like feminine and like bubbly and like fun. Not just boring.
Nice. Those are very nice values. I think nowadays, at least I'm still quite young, so I can't really, go back and say this for a fact, but I would say that we're probably in one of the biggest divides between men and women in history.
Yeah.
Even going back to when feminism first started, when they wanted the right to vote, I'd say even now, a lot of men hate women and a lot of women hate men.
Yeah.
It's a very
unhealthy dynamic.
Yeah, there's a lot of clashing, and you obviously mentioned that you're looking for somebody younger. That obviously, I would say, diminishes the odds a lot more of finding that person who doesn't hate men. What would you say to people who have had like a bad experience? I'm sure you've dated women, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to the people who've had a bad experience who can't really, get their head around it?
One of the biggest traps of humanity is closing your heart after you've had some damage done to it. Now, most people, they go through life and somebody hurts them, whether it be their parents, another lover, business partnership, somebody, and they become resentful of the opposite sex. They become resentful of humans in general. Now, it's really hurtful when you actually become successful, when you have a lot of money and your heart is still closed. So one of the most freeing things is figuring out how to, once you've actually created success, figuring out how to open your heart with guidelines, with a strict stick, like hey,
boundaries.
Here's strict boundaries. And once you've created an open heart, people come to you. People genuinely are attracted to you in all areas of your life, right? So I would say for the successful person out there, a person who wants success and who's been hurt, figure out how to actually open your heart. It's given to you by God, and operating just in your brain alone is actually very, very dangerous. So once you open it up with rules and boundaries, you're actually living in your full potential created by God.
I was speaking to a friend about this the other day. I've been an entrepreneur for 4 years now. And in my first 3 years, I'd say fully 3 years, I had this really it sounds silly, but this toxic mindset of just be logical. Like there was a quote by Andrew Tate that when I first started, I used to kind of live by. It was like, leave the feelings for the girls. Right. And it was like the men built skyscrapers. It wasn't the girls. Right. So leave the feelings to the girls. And I did that for 3 years straight. Right. It was very much pure logic. It was 1 + 1 = 2, and that's it. And I realized, at the end of 2024, start of 2025, that's something that wasn't necessarily good.
Yeah.
And it was becoming dangerous to me and the people around me because I guess my heart was closed.
Yes.
And I would struggle to, even with my friends, maintain relationships and build upon them because I wasn't allowing myself to feel anything at all. However, I don't know if I'd be here today if I hadn't have closed my heart completely, at the start, because it left no room for emotion. What would you say your journey was like when you were building the company, especially from scratch?
Same, bro. Same. Absolutely same. And like I mentioned before, with every popular person online, take the best of the best, but really filter what information is you embody, right? And for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, it's dangerous because you start to close your heart, really. And a lot of I think being an alpha is super gay. Like trying to be alpha is the most gay thing in the world, because everyone's trying to be the alpha, top dog, whatever. And it's like, are you really man enough to close your heart? Listen, I'm not an emotional person. I'm a very stoic and real person. But I have no problem telling somebody I love them. I have no problem opening up my heart and saying, hey, I love you, or showing compassion and helping somebody. My friend was in the hospital. I got that person flowers. I went, I cared for them. I'm a very caring person. I'm fucking strong. I'll rip someone's head off if I have to. So I would say there's a big difference between alpha and being, I'd say, sigma. Sigma doesn't really give a fuck.
Yeah.
And they still don't really care what you think. And alphas really care about being the top guy. Mm-hmm. That's actually weakness.
Do you think that being like an alpha or sigma is something that you can build, or is it something that's already within you? Because if we look at, animals, for example, like dogs, you only have one alpha.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have
one leader of the pack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the leader of the pack, and there's the guy kind of doing his own thing that'll just hang out and say well, cool, we could be friends if you want, but if you don't want to be friends, I'm fucking cool with that too.
Yeah.
There's real power in that, because then you don't need the pack. Mm-hmm. You get your own pack where you put it around you. So I find a lot of freedom in not trying to be part of the pack.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Obviously I have people that like me for me. I was the black sheep for a while. We all have that kind of black sheep kind of mindset. But there's real power in not having to be the top guy in whatever organization. You can kind of do your own thing, and people like you, great. They don't, fuck them.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to go over is, I keep seeing it all over your Instagram, is the van wars.
Oh, van wars is fun. Yeah. So my good friend Jewel, sartorial shooter, has a green van, and he actually just this morning he sent me a video trying to talk shit. But I've got the most custom, insane van in the world, and of course you're gonna get haters, and that's fine. The sartorial shooter can hate all he wants with his green van, but there's only one winner in town, which is the Batmobile.
Why did you go ahead and build the Batmobile in the first place?
All right, so for reference, for anybody still watching this podcast, first and foremost, kudos to you. Thanks for watching as
Indeed.
far as you are. I will actually reply to the comments here as well, so just so you know. So if you drop a comment and you've made it this far, I will...
Should we give them like an emoji to comment so we know they've watched this far?
Drop a van emoji.
Drop a van emoji.
Yeah, van emoji, and I'll respond to anything with any questions in the comments. But no, the van is cool. I have the most custom Ferrari in Dubai. I have the Mercedes AMG that I shipped from US to Dubai. And that's cool. And I'm not saying that to flex. I'm just giving you perspective. I drive that van all the time. So it's a customized V-Class, completely decked it out, has Wi-Fi, little mobile station to work, PlayStation, mini fridge, 3 TVs. It's like the house on wheels. So it's super fun, but it's extremely efficient. And I use it as my daily office, go to meeting, go to different locations. After this podcast, I have steak and I have a steak and some food waiting for me in the car as soon as I get downstairs. I don't have to go to the restaurant, sit there, order, wait, pay the bill, boom, eat it,
there.
done.
Where did you get the idea for this?
I'm an efficiency junkie. So I'm like an efficiency junkie. So I'm all about saving time, right?
Yeah.
Think about, we leave this podcast. You're going to have to go, just what I described, go sit down and sit at the restaurant, wait for the waiter, versus it's my driver has my credit card. He's paid for the food at my favorite restaurant, and it's ready to be eaten as soon as I sit down finishing this podcast. Think about how much time you just saved right there. 45 minutes. So now extrapolate that by every day of the week, how much time you save and efficiency, right?
And not having to drive as well, I imagine. Do you know what? I actually relate to you on this. Last time I saw you, you showed me a WhatsApp app called, what's it, Memory.
Oh, yeah.
I started using it myself as well, literally just on the basis that I don't have to like go and put something in my calendar or set a reminder manually. I can just voice note it.
Yeah.
It's game changing. It's like a couple of minutes a day, but the effort it takes is like, it's an extra like 20 steps, you know, to add something.
Yes. Yeah.
What are some of the most, you know, van aside and memory aside, what are some of your most like efficiency tips out there?
Yeah, so efficiency tips, it depends on your level of income, but you don't need a huge amount of income. I would say cleaner, a good cleaner who's proactive, who's trained, you know exactly where your stuff is done, your dry cleaning, your wash, ironing the clothes that you wear the most, organizing everything. So a good cleaner. A good chef is a really nice one. You can source the best ingredients online, the best cream de crop steaks, fish, all that stuff sent to your house, and simple food. Just
That's what I want.
steak.
Yeah.
So that's huge. A dryer for me is a must. If you've never looked at the V Class, it's amazing. It's called Batmobile Dubai. Just search Batmobile Dubai, and you'll check out what this is all about. It saves me so much time, and they're not that expensive. So yeah, definitely a driver if you can swing that. That's huge. And then also an executive assistant or personal assistant. You know, I've got a PA that helps me with a lot of my tasks, whether it's scheduling things, appointments, flights, all that kind of stuff is super helpful, and it can be used in the business as well.
Is your PA online, like remote as well?
Remote, yeah.
How does that work, and how do you find a good PA?
Yeah, so it works in the sense that that person. Well, first I'll start with where I found them. I found this person through an agency in Russia called Smart and Talented. Really, I'll plug this agency. Very, very good agency. They were able to help source my PA, interviewed many candidates, and then I picked the very best of the best to come work for me. Very reasonable prices, reasonable fees. So I don't make anything off of this, but that's the agency I used. Very, very quality. And in terms of what you get, it depends how involved you want them to be in business. I would say every founder or business owner should get an EA first before getting someone in operations.
What's an EA?
Executive assistant. So there's personal assistant, executive assistant, then chief of staff if you have a large enough company. An EA can help you with a lot of the business tasks, research, vetting projects, managing your inbox, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your, you know, when you got the PA, for example, how logistically does that work? Like, do you voice note them and I'll tell them what you want them to do?
I do voice in, text out. So that's the instructions. I'll send a telegram. Hey, please schedule because it's efficient, and then they text me back. I don't have to play the voice message. It's just information.
Yeah,
it's more efficient.
Nice. And they work like 24/7, like.
Not 24/7. There's a good window, but if it's really an emergency, I'll text them at night.
Yeah. Nice. That's very efficient. There's something that I've been looking, to like hire somebody to help me with stuff like this for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's something that I can't find. Like I can't find the right person to be there, you know, not 24/7.
Smart and Talented, bro. That's the agency. A couple grand a month max, and very good quality
Nice.
of PAs.
Nice. Well, look, Adam, I don't really have any more questions for you. I feel like we've dived.
This is fun, bro. I really, I'm happy to jump into anything, man. It's, you know, and there's so much like cool stuff. Like once you make it, you know, it's really interesting. Like once you have all the cars and all the stuff, you realize it doesn't matter. And then it's also telling your story. That's why I do all the personalization. So my last name is Nasir. It means eagle in Arabic. So I named that name because I didn't have a father as much growing up. So I named that to myself because I understood that this is symbolic. Yeah. So my goal at this point is not only to, you know, obviously make more money and grow and business, cool, but I hope that I can be a symbol for people. That's why you do the eagle all over, say life on my terms. And I try to make things that are custom and unique that can be a symbol, but also can be passed down for generations. So hopefully one day when we have, you know, our own children and grandchildren, They're going to watch these podcasts. They're going to, take the things that, you used and wear them with honor, and truly wear them with genuine honor. Like, just like you go to the Louvre and you see some, some piece that belonged to Napoleon or something. We cherish those things for generations. Why should our great-grandchildren not cherish the relics that came from us?
How do you think that's going to work with like social media as a whole? Because, I look back to like my grandparents and they have like, a handful, maybe a couple dozen photos in black and white from like special occasions.
Nice.
But, our grandchildren are going to have so much content about us.
Yeah.
What will they do? Like, will they even consume it all? Like, if my dad said to me, oh, look, mate, I've got like, 40-hour-long podcasts of myself, I'd be like, would I fucking watch those? Like,
Yeah.
Maybe someday. But then there's so much more stuff to consume in the world. So what's your angle on that? What do you predict with AI and social media for the future for us as humans?
Yeah, I mean, well, somebody like you've got a lot of content out there. But if your grandchildren want to watch, they can select, what pieces did the best. Just like if you're YouTubing somebody you want to find online, you find which clips perform the best and the most popular. I'm sure with some effort, they'll find that. But yeah, it's good to have a footprint. Imagine you could see your great-grandfather speaking online. Would you go watch his YouTube videos if you had a chance?
Hell yeah, of course. What do you think of like the future of social media and especially AI? Stephen Ronald Bell talked about it on the podcast about how social media is going to get overrun by AI. They're going to copy you. They're going to copy how you talk. They're going to like basically be better versions of you online. What do you think about this theory? And
I'd say, yeah, there's going to be a lot of bad actors, and people are already smelling inauthenticity throughout social media. People can tell who's faking, who's not real, who's pretending. And that actually creates a much bigger opportunity for people who are real, who are genuinely authentic as creators. And yeah, there's just going to be a lot of bad actors, I would say, in the future. There's going to be a lot of bad actors and creating more of a divide and mistrust. More mistrust will be created in this space.
It's like, that we spoke about that divide between men and women, it's bigger than it's ever been. I would personally say that a lot of that is because of social media, right? Because of the reels and the statements that people put out there that everyone agrees with. How do you protect yourself from these ideologies and opinions? And, let's say your daughter was in front of you. What would you say to her to, protect her from these things?
The most powerful thing you can instill your kids with is a good mindset, and the mindset to question everything. Question your friends, question your peers, question your teachers, and you can question me if you're not sure. So this is, I'd say, the most important equipment we should all have is healthy level of mistrust. And our world tells us, hey, believe your government, believe your teachers, believe history without questioning. And I think this is the biggest load of shit. So teaching our children to question everything in a healthy way and understand and make their own decisions versus accepting things as they are. And once your kids have that, I'd say they'd be perfectly equipped to take on any challenge in the world. So definitely building this healthy mistrust and questioning everything that we're told.
Obviously nowadays, like if I'm questioning something, I just go on ChatGPT.
Yeah. But I even question ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Who created ChatGPT? It's like,
So what do you think about like AI and the future of technology? Obviously being a software owner as well, I'm sure you have some like greater context on it, but what do you think? Where do you think we're headed, and how can people adapt and prepare themselves?
Yeah. I would say the level of access that we have is very high, but this level of technology has already been around for 20 plus years by the governments for many, many decades. This level of intelligence. Now, can you imagine the level of intelligence that they have access to? That they've only kicked us the crumbs. So if ChatGPT is like the crumb of the bread, what do they have access to? Everything you say, everything you do, absolutely is tracked. Based on the recent patterns of Western civilization, the level of controls, the level of depth at which they're going to infiltrate our minds and our children's minds into, teaching a young boy that he could be a girl, the level of corruption of that is so profound. And if we think that with a level of insane AI technology that they're not going to do the same thing behind the scenes is naive. So if they're willing to go bomb children and do all these horrific things and program our very sensitive children in the West, they will absolutely take that opportunity to leverage AI to create control behind the scenes.
I saw a quote from Elon Musk yesterday. He said that people should stop worrying about their retirement funds because in the future, AI will kind of replace the need for said things.
Interesting.
I've been thinking about it ever since.
Yeah, I don't know what he meant. I'm not sure what he meant by that.
He basically, my interpretation is that technology will be so great that everybody will have like an equal access to everything. What would the world look like in your eyes if everybody had equal access to everything? Do you think that would be great, or do you think it would be terrible?
Equal access to opportunities would be great.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great to see people in Africa getting the same opportunity that somebody in the West is getting. That would be awesome. But yeah, with more access comes more threat risks, right? So who knows? But I'm actually net negative on AI overall. Like the positives, the negatives outweigh the positives of AI growth in the future. So I'd say the ultimate thing you can really do is if somebody watching is like, okay, what can I do? You understand that there's people in control, they're starting COVID, they're starting fucking wars, they're doing all of this stuff. What can I do that's in my power? Number one, learn to ask questions and think for yourself. They don't want you to be a free-thinking man or woman. They don't want you to think for yourself or be a free-thinking man or woman. They want you to just follow the system. So that's number one. Number two, make as much money as you can to be free. Because with money creates freedom. You need money to be free in this world. And number three, align with people who have similar shared values, right? People who have the same values as you, creating alliances with those people and creating your own infrastructures away from these systems and not letting your kids be indoctrinated by these opinions, right? So those are the three things that you can do to become free long-term. And regardless what happens with future wars, AI, or any other catastrophic event, you can prepare your family and future family to be safe from these things.
And free thinking, essentially.
Free. Yes.
It's incredible. So many people have that freedom of location, freedom of money, but do they have freedom of thinking?
Not much.
No.
No.
What can somebody do when they're, maybe an older person's listening to this, in their 30s, 40s, even 50s, and, they're coming to the realization that maybe they're not free thinking.
Yeah.
How can they start without going insane, right?
Yeah.
Because questioning everything is great if you're doing it from a young age.
Yeah.
But if you're starting from your mid-20s, if you start questioning everything, I feel like you could easily, go a bit loopy and start questioning everything. So how would you navigate that?
Well, depends on the person, right? Somebody who might be 50 or 60 years old or 70 years old will have a hard time coming to grips with reality, right? Because they're like, well, I've always believed this. And then, so it takes a bit of humility to say, you know what, maybe I was wrong for 60 years. Maybe, just maybe, everything that I was taught down to everything we learned in history was a fallacy, but that takes a lot of courage to say I'm wrong. And not many people will do that. They'll make a mistake and no, this is what it's always been like. And they hold on to that even though they're incorrect. So having the courage to admit being incorrect is, I think, first thing. And then, seeking out truth, genuinely seeking out truth, like reassessing the sources of where you're getting the information. Are you getting it from, the BBC or Fox News, or are you getting it from actual news sources that are controlled by government sources?
How can you tell if, it's not controlled by a government source nowadays?
That's a good question. How can you tell? I mean, the larger it is, the more likely it is. But, who owns this group? Like really asking that question, like who owns this media corporation, right? Is it a certain group or not? But yeah, like looking at the history and the ownership and the track record and the consistency and also the theme, are they constantly pushing one agenda or not? It's a case by case basis.
I've got a really random question for you.
Yeah.
I was having this debate with a friend the other day about Mr. Beast.
Okay.
Do you know Mr. Beast?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've watched his videos since he was young. Like when he first started, he used to do silly videos, breaking laptops and stuff like that. Nowadays, obviously, we all know him for these crazy human social experiments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do you think about him? Do you think that he has a free mind?
I don't know much about Mr. Beast, to be honest. I know of him, but I'd say the system rewards the most popular people for a reason. So the most popular people on these platforms that are controlled, the YouTubes and these public platforms, are signing a hidden contract. So I don't know much, but I certainly would question a lot based on his massive popularity on these platforms.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. I mean, look, I think it's a good note to wrap it up on before I start diving into too many...
conspiracy theories and all this stuff. I can talk to you off camera about this stuff. But
this has been an amazing podcast. I've really enjoyed... Your story is so real and so authentic. And I think more people need to hear it, because I think you're truly someone who could inspire.
Right, what are the chances? That's why, again, I'm doing this. What are the chances that you can go from wherever you are to anywhere? I mean, I know it sounds generally cliche, okay, you could do whatever you want in life. It's so few examples that I've seen that are actually living examples of that. And to do it from one massive extreme to another is insane. So, but it was this consistent progress. So if you're on level 4, level 10, level 12 watching, it's perfectly fine. Don't judge yourself. Don't compare yourself to the other guys with fucking Rolex or whatever. That's why I wear my 57 dirham Casio. I got this thing for 57 dirhams. I love it. Don't compare yourself to fucking other people, man. It's like on Instagram, everyone's balling out and everyone's cooler than you think they are. And then you meet them. I meet these people in Dubai. I think they're, they look super cool. And you meet them, they're fucking nerds. I'm like, dude, I would never hang out with you again. So all these people are faking. All the girls online showing their perfect life, whatever, they're faking it too. So you are exactly where you need to be. You're exactly where you need to be right now. Focus on your next steps. Focus on consistent growth, not the finish line, not the top of the mountain. Focus on the next step ahead. Plan out the next 5, but focus on the next one, and be happy with who you are today.
I have one final question.
Yeah.
Do you believe in fate, or do you believe that you are the architect of your own destiny?
That's a good question. I would say a combination of both. I would say that there's definitely opportunities and directions where you are meant to be, but you have to take the action. That's why we're given the free will to decide on our own if we're gonna wake up in the morning, attack the goals, go do this, go do that, versus being a lazy fuck and just sitting home and watching Netflix. You'll be in McDonald's making French fries.
Amazing. Adam, let's. I hope that you get this job at McDonald's.
Oh, thank you.
That you're wishing for.
Thank you.
Truly do.
I'll make the best fries possible.
If you need a reference, feel free to put me down.
So kind of you, Jack.
I'll give you an amazing reference.
So kind.
And then maybe when I apply for KFC, you could maybe refer me.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
We could.
Some fried chicken sounds great. Actually,
tell each other the secrets.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, my man. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
where can everybody find you online?
Sure. Happy to connect. Instagram, probably the main channel, Life with Nas. So Life with Nas on Instagram. And yeah, I think that's probably the primary channel. And anybody comments with a van emoji, I will reply back as well with any questions that you have. So yeah, that's the main place, Instagram. But if you really enjoyed this video, give Jack a lot of love because he doesn't do this for money. So a subscribe would be really helpful. Some comments to drive the algo. We really appreciate your time. Jack, any last words?
Thank you, Adam. That's all from me. Adam's an amazing person. You guys should go follow his journey. I'm sure he wants to help people as much as I do. You know, there's genuine intention there. So if you are looking to really level yourself up in life, go give him a follow. Go follow some of his friends as well. Sartorial Shooter is a notable one. People who have genuine intentions to help, you know, with no hidden meaning, right? Now, look, guys, it's been a pleasure. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Stay tuned and take care, everybody.